It's time to break down some undrafted 49ers free agent rookies. We're talking Corey Kiner, Isaiah Neyor, Stone Blanton, three of the highest priority undrafted free agents for the 49ers heading into 2025 on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Love hanging out with you guys every single day. And, yeah, we're doing it every day throughout the offseason. If you're new to the program, welcome. Hang out with us every day, breaking down this team, getting ready for 2025. Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you are listening to this podcast. And, if you're already subscribed, hit the thumbs up. Let us know you stopped by. You can always drop a comment or a question or topic for us to hit this summer as we get ready for 49ers football and what this new team might look like. Part of what a new team looks like, Croc, is a new crop of rookie players. Niners had 11 draft picks, brought in a few more free agents. The biggest names of the free agent crop are running back Corey Kiner out of Cincinnati, Stone Blanton, Mississippi State linebacker, who they gave the most money to post-draft in free agency. Not a big undrafted free agent class, but a lot of people are excited about the height, weight, speed combination of Isaiah Neyor, Nebraska linebacker. A lot of these guys bounced around. A lot of guys played for a lot of colleges these days. And it's kind
Nebraska receiver.
Yes, wide receiver, Isaiah Neyor. Wyoming, Texas, Nebraska, wide receiver, Isaiah Neyor. I want to start with the running back, though, and Corey Kiner. And one thing that jumps out when you look at what schools Corey Kiner went to, he finished at Cincinnati, but he started at LSU. If you're a running back recruit to LSU, you're big time, Croc. And he was a top 10 running back, 4-star recruit from his recruiting class in 2021, was only at LSU for 1 year, then went to Cincinnati where he really starred and put up some big numbers at Cincinnati. And to be honest with you, I think all three of these prospects, when you put on the tape and what they are, it becomes really apparent. I think that the scouting report was pretty easy, and you could see why any of these three guys would succeed or why it would be very tough for any three of these guys to make it in the NFL. And it's funny watching what they look like on tape, and you get some fans that are hyped up, and you hear some reports about what a guy is. And we're a little bit late to the party here on some of the undrafted free agents. We already did our deep dives on all the 49ers draft picks, but we hadn't hit the undrafted guys yet. And just generally, Croc, it's tough for an undrafted free agent to make it. You never want to say a guy can't make it, but I also would caution fans to get too excited any season about an undrafted guy, because there's so much to get through even to make the team. And you look at where the 49ers are, and I think there's an opportunity for an undrafted running back to make the roster, but you still have Christian McCaffrey, who, when he's healthy, nobody else is going to touch the football, right? You got Jordan James, who you already drafted from the same rookie class ahead of Corey Kiner. You got Isaiah Guerrero, who was a 4th-round pick the year before, already established, has a role in the NFL and for the San Francisco 49ers. You got a veteran in Patrick Taylor. You got Izzy Abanikanda on the roster as well. So there's a lot of bodies. Now, you can go from 5 or 6 on the depth chart to 3 really quick, partly due to injury and partly because you just show out. Like, nobody's ingrained except for, I think, the rookies from the last 2 years and Christian McCaffrey. So that running back 4 role is up for grabs. Can Corey Kiner grab that role? I think he absolutely can. I was kind of shocked, Croc, when I looked at the measurables of Corey Kiner. I thought it was going to say 5'10", 220. This dude's thickly built. He's only 5'8.5". In fact, he really fits. I think the 49ers were looking for a certain profile with their running backs this year, because he's nearly identical. He's like what, an inch, half inch shorter than, and 1 pound heavier than Jordan James, the 49ers' other draft pick. So the 49ers clearly were looking for someone who could be an every down style of running back. Less so, they were looking for a guy who was going to run 4 threes. And that's exactly what Corey Kiner is. He is thickly built. He's got big legs. He has a power style to his running ability. Guys bounce off his thick legs. Guys, he runs behind his pads. He's a little bit old school in that vein when you watch him run. He ran actually, I thought he might have run really slow. He actually ran a 4.57 because he doesn't have much of a top gear, but he's got a little bit of burst, and he's got a little bit of I'm going to make one move and so you'll glance off me, so I'm not going to take the full brunt of your tackle attempt. 5'8" and 5/8, 209 pounds, 4.57 in the 40-yard dash clock. Corey Kiner kind of a bowling ball out there. Guys bounce off him. And in fact, the stats back that up. He was number 4 in FBS last year with 82 forced missed tackles on the season.
Yeah, no, he was an interesting watch. He reminded me of a decent amount of this kid I've had the pleasure of coaching, Jonah Coleman, who's at University of Washington now. And you talked about how you thought he would be bigger. I thought he would be closer to what Jonah is at running back. Jonah is about 5'7", 5'8", about 225 pounds. Right? He's kind of he's like a bowling ball, big bowling ball.
That's like Maurice Jones-Drew almost.
Yeah, and he has great feet. And he's going to be a guy that's going into the draft next year. I thought he had a chance to get drafted this year, probably 3rd round, 4th round, maybe. NIL persuaded him to kind of stay for another year. He's staying put over at University of Washington, but he remind me a lot of him. Now, I would say I think everything that Jonah does is just a little bit better, right? Just a little bit better feet, a little bit better burst, a little bit make a guy miss, like a little bit better hands. But watching Kiner, there was some really good stuff. His ability to kind of make the first guy miss. I really like that. The thing that probably stood out to me more than anything with him was his pass protection. 3rd down, 2nd down, their drop back passing. He had to stand in there and take on blocks. I thought he did a terrific job of that. And when they did ask him to catch passes, I thought his hands were soft. Now, again, I think you would like a little bit more top end speed and maybe a little bit more of ability to threaten defenses, just more with his speed. But for what he is, you talk about just kind of that guy. Hey man, he runs well. I think he reads blocks well. I think he plays off of the blocks very well. But he was one of those guys where it's like, what is he going to hang his hat on at the next level? Like, what is going to be that one thing that he does so well that the 49ers have to keep him and let go of someone else? So I was looking for that one thing. Couldn't quite find it. You talk about Jordan James. Jordan James, a little bit better feet, a little bit better speed when you watch them play, right? Like, it was a lot of kind of the same things, but just a little bit better. Now, that doesn't mean that Kiner can't be a terrific running back or defy the odds, but just watching him as a prospect, I could see how he would go lower, mid to late round, undrafted type of guy, as opposed to Jordan James and where he was actually drafted.
And certainly has the ability to be drafted. And I think a deep running back class is probably what pushed him out of the draft. And he ended up being an undrafted player, ran his own, scheme like a lot of teams do in college. So that should be a good transition for him. I did like the vision and the balance, and obviously contact balance was his number one obvious trait, the way he runs behind his pads. He really runs out of gas. He just has no top speed, but he can get up to speed and he can hit a hole too. And if I'm going to, I would much rather have, vision and balance and initial quickness over top speed if I'm looking for a running back anyway. So I do like that aspect of his game. And I think he probably dropped a few LBs, if I'm guessing, to get to 209, not necessarily to hit a weight, but to try to run faster. And he did break that 4.6, which was probably big for him, to run a 4.57. If I had to guess, he definitely was a little heavier than that running in college, and might not have been able to break 4.6 this time a year ago. Might have been more like 215, 220.
I'm looking at, I searched his name on Twitter, trying to find, just little nuggets on him. And one thing I came across, all right, so this is 2020, so Corey Kiner is still in high school. He had 17 carries in this game. 7 of them went for touchdowns. And so almost half of his carries were a touchdown. And he ran for 363 yards at this time, committed to LSU, where he actually ended up going. So he definitely flashed a lot of big time ability in high school. I bet there's a lot of players over in that area who say, hey, man, this Corey Kiner, that was the best player I ever played against. But once you get to the collegiate level, once you get to the SEC, it's got to be a little bit more. And sometimes, not having just quite enough juice is the one thing to make it to where, like, we'll take this other back or play this other back over you.
I mean, if the LSU coach is in your living room on the couch talking to your parents, you're a big-time running back recruit, man. Yeah, so that's what Corey Kiner was. And he has a lot of the important traits for being a good NFL running back. So I'm excited to see what he looks like in the NFL. And maybe does he play a little quicker if he's playing at a lighter speed? But, some vision, his ability to deflect tacklers just instantly instantly jumps off the tape with Corey Kiner. I like the player. I think he does have an opportunity to stick. There's some guys in front of him on the depth chart, but is Patrick Taylor, is Izzy Abanaconda, are these guys enough to, block the 49ers from keeping him as the fourth running back on the roster? And we know how quickly things can change on a depth chart at running back because of injuries as well. So I think there is a good chance that Corey Kiner has an opportunity to stick with the San Francisco 49ers, and it'll be really much easier to tell once we get the pads on, get into camp, get into preseason as well. One of the first players I'm going to look for in the preseason. He'll probably have a large amount of carries, I would guess. The consistency, though, Croc, only the fifth guy in Cincinnati football history to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. You see a lot of players who yards per carry is 7 this year, 4.5 this year. You had 1,500 yards and you had 700 yards. His last 2 seasons at Cincinnati, the numbers are almost identical. Like within 15 carries, within 100 yards, 4.5 or 5.5 yards per carry both seasons, 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, played every game, 12 starts, 12 games played, both of the last 2 seasons at Cincinnati. Just consistent, good football player that you could count on to get yards for you. Is he dynamic enough to be even more to be that level of player in the NFL as well? We'll find out. So fascinating player. I liked what I saw from Corey Kiner. Still a lot could happen in a career for a guy like that. Does he make the team? Is he the number 4? Is he toting meaningful carries for the 49ers as a rookie in 2025? We've seen a lot of undrafted free agent running backs make good, especially on the San Francisco 49ers. We've also seen undrafted wide receivers, undrafted linebackers make good for the San Francisco 49ers. In the Kyle Shanahan regime, could Stone Blanton and Isaiah Neyor be that? We'll get into those 2 prospects next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Monarch Money and monarchmoney.com. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year, and take control of your finances. More on that in a second, because I know this has happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to most listeners out there. You check your bank account and you wonder, where did all that money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's so easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. Track all of your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place. So stop just managing money. Start building wealth. Collaborate with your partner. Managing money smoother than ever with somebody else, because you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress, which is key. No stress. That's what you want when you're managing money with a partner. Tons of insights. You drinking too much coffee, spending too much on it. I did today. Food delivery, budget smarter, save more, and take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. So a fun prospect, and I could see why fans would get excited with the height, weight, speed of Isaiah Neyor, wide receiver out of Nebraska. He bounced around a little bit. He was at Wyoming. He was at Texas, and ended his career at the University of Nebraska. And obviously, Croc, when you're 6'4" and you run like the wind, gets you excited. But he was undrafted for a reason. So when you put on the tape of Isaiah Neyor, what did you see in this NFL prospect?
Definitely saw a big receiver. And the thing that jumped out to me right away, a lot of times what I try to do when I'm identifying the receiver is, what do the 49ers like about him? Like what jumps out about this player, and how does he fit what they do? And you see a big body. How tall did you say he was?
He was 6'4" and 6'4" and a quarter, 218 pounds, 4.4 flat in the 40-yard dash.
He's a big guy that can run very well. Now, unfortunately, especially in the route, he just doesn't play to that speed, nor do I think he threatens receivers, or defensive backs with his speed. So there's areas there where I feel like may be a little bit tougher to transition to the NFL with. But again, what do they like? Man, I thought he was a physical blocker. And that was the thing that jumped out right away. Just his willingness to get in front of guys, wall them off, get hands on them, driving them back the other way. And then you start to kind of like, all right, well, let's get a comp for him. He's like, well, it's kind of like poor man's Juwan Jennings. Now, Juwan Jennings at Tennessee, one, he ran 4.7. So their speeds are on different planes there. And even when I watched Juwan Jennings play, even though he did run a 4.7, he played at the same speed the entire time, which actually can give the illusion that you're moving faster because he got up to his top speed quick. So if you can get up to your top speed within the first few steps of your route, did you break that route off? You have a big body, big frame, you're able to box guys out. That was one thing I think stood out about Juwan Jennings, on top of him like leading the nation or being second in the nation to Brandon Ayuk in yards after catch coming out of college that year. I'm not sure Neyor is that, even with the yards after catch aspect of it. But if you're talking about a guy that you just, hey, let's just kind of see. And the 49ers let a guy like this kind of slip through the cracks a little bit. A guy that's still playing in the NFL, Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick was originally signed with the Baltimore Ravens, I believe. The 49ers, they ended up letting him go. 49ers picked him up. I thought he was okay in camp, but he just didn't have a ton of opportunity. So 49ers let him go. Denver Broncos ended up picking him up. Next thing you know, this is a guy that has been in the league now for, I don't know, 6-7 years or something like that. Like he's played on teams and been a part of some offenses as, third or fourth receiver. Can Neyor potentially develop into something like that? And everything says he has that kind of ability. But I think one thing that he's going to have to really work on is just his play speed. And it's something that we call high-end controlled speed. And I think, again, Juwan Jennings, I think, does it at a very high level for a guy that ran a 4.7. Neyor has to be able to, you don't even have to be a 4.4 on the field, but can you be more of a 4.5 guy and look like a 4.5 guy? And if you can do that in route, you can get DBs to turn their hips, start going upfield, sit it down, catch the ball, and then maybe we get to see some of that long speed that he potentially has.
What was it? Controlled
high-end controlled speed.
High-end controlled speed. Yeah.
So the reason for that is if you think about, Hall of Famers, or if you think about just some of the best receivers in the NFL, a lot of times they're not the fastest guy, right? Like Devontae Adams, he was a 4.57 guy, but he had high-end controlled speed. So, within those 10 to 15 yards where you're trying to sail a vertical route, if you can get up to whatever your top speed is, but be under control and break that route off, you're much more effective, as opposed to some of these guys that run these 4.2s, 4.3s. Yeah, they can run really fast, but are they under control to be able to sail routes? And a lot of times it takes those guys more steps to get out of their breaks. So you just want high-end control speed. Juwan Jennings does a good job of that.
Yeah, and when we talked about consistency with Corey Kiner, it's the exact opposite with Isaiah Neyor. I was like, okay, how does 87 catches for 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns sound to you, Croc?
Sounds amazing.
Sounds amazing, unless it takes you 6 years to do it. And that's his college production. Starting in 2019, he was in college for 6 years. One of those, his first year with Texas, he tore his ACL and then had played one game with one catch the next year, then transferred to Nebraska after 3 years at Wyoming. 87 total catches in 6 years of college football. So the production is just not there for a guy that's that big and fast. You have to wonder why. And when you put on the tape, you see why. And I think another way of putting what you were talking about with his controlled speed and how he plays, he just looks like a guy where football is not his first sport. And he is a former track guy, and he plays football like kind of a track guy. But then there's those glimpses, and you see a play where he kind of goes and gets it, and is fast and is tall, and you're like, oh, if he could do it once, can he do it again, right? And so that part can get you excited. You could probably put together a pretty cool-looking highlight tape of Isaiah Neyor, but I'm watching him run routes, and you watch him play after play, and it looks like his legs are going to snap in half, kind of running like Bambi. He just looks like a football, not his first sport kind of guy. That's my initial impression when I started watching him play. But then there's some reps that you love. And again, 6'4", 220 pounds nearly, 34.5-inch arms, 4.4 flat in the 40-yard dash, 38-inch vertical, 11.1 broad jump. I mean, ridiculous athlete. Is he a football player is my big question. And he's going to have to develop a lot. And if he didn't over 6 years of college football, I find it hard to believe that he's going to take that next step in the NFL. But he does have some ability and some talent to do it. In a lot of ways, he's the exact opposite of a player that Kyle Shanahan usually brings in. So it's an interesting flyer that they took here as an undrafted free agent in Isaiah Neyor. Really had one good season, his third season at Wyoming, 13 games. He had 44 catches, 878 yards, 12 touchdowns that year. Did have a solid season his final year, 2024, sixth-year senior, 10 starts at Nebraska, 34 catches, 455 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So, not consistent production at all for a guy who's older and has that much height, weight, speed. I think it's a dubious profile, even though you can be tantalized by how big and fast he is.
Yeah, I brought up Tim Patrick as a comp. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Tim Patrick and kind of what he is in the NFL, entering his 9th season. All right. I talked about 6 or 7 years. He's entering his 9th season in the NFL, a guy that the 49ers had during his rookie year. And they ultimately ended up letting him go, and he signed with the Denver Broncos. All right. So in college, all right, let's talk about college first. He went to a couple of different colleges, 2011, 12, 13. He was at Grossmont College. And then the next 3 years, he played at Utah. So another guy, 6 years of college football. All right. 2014, 15, 16, he was at University of Utah. So 6 years in college, like our guy that we're discussing right now. 6'5", 6'4", 212 pounds. So now, 6 pounds off, but height, weight, kind of similar there. All right. College production, as you talked about with Neyor, not the greatest, right? 61 total catches, 888 yards, 5 touchdowns, with a bulk of that coming in his very last year at University of Utah. That doesn't include his Grossmont stats, so maybe they don't have those. All right, where he was at for the first 3 years. But this is a guy that Tim Patrick didn't have the greatest production, but he had size, he had some athleticism. I didn't get his combine or pro day, but I see some. I'm drawing some parallels with this guy. I'm seeing some similarities just with maybe what their paths may be.
I like it. And as long as the 49ers keep the next Tim Patrick and not let him go too. So that's why it's interesting. And you got to let him play, let him develop, and see what you end up with Isaiah Neyor. And clearly there's some talent there. It might be a developmental process though. But man,
real quick,
see the speed and size at receiver, no doubt.
Tim Patrick, he ran a 4.47, 3-cone with 6.99, terrific. And broad jump, vertical jump, all that stuff was really good. 37.5-inch bar. So he was a good athlete as well.
7 flat was a 3-cone for Isaiah Neyor. Dude,
we got our player comp.
Next Tim Patrick. Don't let him go too soon before he finally breaks out and develops. Love that. Next, let's talk Mississippi State linebacker Stone Blanton. He was the apple of the 49ers free agent undrafted eye. Next. The biggest bonus money in undrafted free agency for the 49ers this year, not a big class, they didn't throw a lot of money around, was for Mississippi State linebacker Stone Blanton. And he's kind of a throwback, Croc. He's a true middle linebacker. And he is in a lot of ways, he's somewhat of the defensive version of what I talked about with Corey Kiner. I think he's a player that doesn't blow you away athletically, but just, is consistent and makes plays and collects tackles. He was second in the conference in tackles last season. Just a hair under 6'2", 230 pounds. In this day and age, that's a big linebacker, right? He might have been a 4th-round pick a decade ago. And he actually shows some ability to kind of drop into hook zones and play defense, which shows you he's a smart player, even though he's not, a guy who's going to man up and carry people down the football field. And, obviously instincts are there. He's good at coming downhill. He will hit you and hit you hard. He will try to pull the ball out when he hits you, and really seems to be a smart football player, former multi-sport star. And he was actually playing baseball in college and decided to focus on on just playing football after his freshman year. And that was the first time he really had the spring to kind of hone his craft on the football field, and really took off, and was a 2-year starter at inside backer the last 2 years in college. And so I like the way he takes on the run. I think there's some instincts there, and I have question about the overall athletic profile. And he did not, as best I can tell, run at all. He wasn't invited at the combine, and I don't see a 40 time listed at all for him at his pro day, but I do see a 35.5-inch vertical, which is solid. Not great agilities, 4.36 in the short shuttle, 7.34 3-cone, 16 bench press reps. So he's not a super impressive, height, weight, speed guy, shorter armed player, but kind of a throwback that'll come down hill that will hit you. And to be honest with you, it's not that different of a profile from last year's 7th round linebacker Tatum Bethune. And I think those are both inside backers, and I think we're going to see a battle. And I think if Bethune's healthy and good and develops in a year or two, Stone Blanton might not have a path to making the team. And if he stumbles at all, I think Stone Blanton could have an opportunity, because I don't think the 49ers have many true inside linebackers right now on the roster after Fred Warner, except for Tatum Bethune and now Stone Blanton.
Yeah, linebacker position, definitely a position of need for the 49ers. And they tried to address it a little bit, but just a lot of youthfulness there. And he kind of adds to that. But it feels like almost, and I didn't watch his film. You watched it. Does it feel like you're kind of watching someone that steps in and will look more like a veteran? I know that's a lot to ask for of an undrafted free agent, but there is obviously a reason why the 49ers, threw more money at him.
He plays that style. Yeah. Like I don't have any information on whether or not he was a team captain, but he just seems like one of those guys that will, he knows exactly where he needs to be, what he needs to do, diagnose in the middle of the football field. He will hit you hard. He will try to, pull the ball out. He plays like a veteran football player, a high IQ football player. And, probably needs to be able to play some special teams and do some of those things to be able to make a roster. But really, it was a lot of the same things we said about Tatum Bethune last year. And it's in a lot of ways the exact opposite of what the 49ers did with Nick Martin. So the 49ers drafted Nick Martin, who's clearly like an outside, weak side linebacker, kind of undersized, not going to take on blocks, and is going to fly to the football, ridiculously athletic, tested well. And then Stone Blanton's kind of the opposite, where he doesn't have flashy physical traits and speed, but can play that middle backer and is smart enough to, get a team probably through a preseason game, maybe potentially calling the plays, right? Which is something you have to think about as well, because if you don't have a middle linebacker, how do you even get through an exhibition game? So that might be part of it as well for the 49ers, just making sure they have enough bodies to potentially play in the middle of their defense. And I wonder, like, if Fred Warner got hurt, would they throw the rookie in? Would you put would D Winters end up playing middle linebacker? Would it be Tatum Bethune? Like, who would play middle linebacker tomorrow if Fred Warner got hurt? God forbid.
That's a great question. And I think for all these guys, you want them to be, versatile enough to where they could play multiple linebacker positions. And that was kind of like, if you go back to Fred Warner's rookie year, right? You had him and you had Reuben Foster. That could have been a hell of a linebacker tandem right there. And obviously the 49ers, I don't want to say they lucked up, but they identified Dre Greenlaw, a guy that could come in and play very well. But man, Reuben Foster, he was a missile on the field, and obviously he had a couple issues. One, couldn't stay healthy. Two, the off the field issues just trumped any kind of talent that he had. But Fred Warner came in and was the green dot, and that was something that people weren't quite expecting. So, maybe one of these young guys can come in and potentially be ready for the same type of opportunity. But that is a lot to ask of these guys.
There you go. Stone Blanton, Isaiah Neyor, Corey Kiner, they all have an opportunity to make the San Francisco 49ers. And man, so many rookies, the big rookie class, 11 drafted, more undrafted free agents. And I think that's going to be the most fun for me in training camp this year, because most of the camp battles revolve around who the young players are and who the young players become and how they develop, because the veterans are the veterans, and we know who those guys are. And we talked about on yesterday's show, Croc, the top 10 49ers. Like, the 49ers still have a bunch of big names, guys who are, Hall of Famers potentially, and, future or past All Pros and past Pro Bowlers, and have big time contracts. there's a lot of depth to be shaken out. And I think the depth chart has potentially more movement throughout camp and preseason this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball, than maybe we've ever seen. And some guys battling for the last spots at wide receiver and the last spots at running back. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see how this rookie class shakes out and how they really look when the pads are on and they're playing football later on this summer. I'm pumped for it. It's going to be a big camp. You going to be at camp this year, Croc?
I hope so. I'll be at some, especially once school starts. I'm hoping school starts where, we don't have anything going on in the mornings for our football stuff. And then I can just go head out, drive to San Jose, watch some 49er practice and head back to Stockton before our practice starts.
Coach Crocky changed his handle for a reason. He's a busy man these days as a head coach of a high school program. So I don't know if you're going to be gallivanting around California as much as you used to, Croc.
Yeah, nah, I don't think so. These kids get all my attention.
That's awesome. That's why you're a good football coach. I can't wait to see how Stag High looks, and I'm gonna make the trip to Stockton to see you guys play. I'm pumped for that for sure. I'd rather go there than see the 49ers in training camp, if we're being honest, and go see a 49ers game. I can't wait to see Coach Crocky's Stag High football team. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here in the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let us know what you think about the San Francisco 49ers draft, the rookies, where you think these undrafted free agents will ultimately perform and land on the 49ers depth chart in 2025 and beyond. Make sure you're subbed up on YouTube. Drop a comment while you're there. And Croc and I will be back tomorrow, Winky Wednesday style, right here, Locked On 49ers.